The trip was supposed to be a reset. 4 friends, Jason, Lena, Mark, and Danny, all grew up in Fresno. They'd been camping together since high school, but this was their first trip in years. College, work, life, it got in the way. Now, pushing 30, they wanted to recapture something. Jason, the planner, had picked a spot way off-grid, an old trail that led down to a river bend no one used anymore. He found it on a backcountry forum. Deadwood Creek, he said, showing them the topo map. Supposed to be amazing fishing. Deep pools, golden trout, no crowds. Lena squinted. Is that the place with no cell service? Exactly. Mark grinned. So if one of us dies, no one'll know? Perfect, Danny laughed. I need that kind of disconnect. They packed light. Tents, rods, whiskey. 6.5 Creedmoor rifle, just in case of bears. But what they needed most, no one brought. The trail took them through dense pine groves, then down switchbacks of loose rock and dry needles. The deeper they went, the quieter it got. No birds, no bugs, just the sound of boots crunching soil and the distant hiss of fast-moving water. When they reached the bottom, the river opened before them, cold, clear, and fast. Mist rolled low over the surface where sunlight broke through the trees. Jason exhaled. Told you, paradise. Mark already had his rod out. Lena set up camp, while Danny wandered off to piss and take photos. His phone buzzed once, then nothing. Zero signal. An hour later, they had camp built. Tents near a rock face, fire pit by the sandbar, coolers buried in shade. Everything felt still. Too still. That afternoon, they fished. Jason pulled up 2 fat trout. Mark got one with brilliant golden scales, a trophy. Danny caught nothing but snags and curses. Lena sat by the water with a flask and sketchbook, drawing the twisted trees and oddly shaped stones littering the river's edge. Looks like bones, she joked, pointing to a pale tree root. Jason didn't laugh, seeing something odd in the water, just under the surface. A shape that moved against the current. But he said nothing. That night, they cooked the fish over a fire and passed the whiskey around. The moon rose, full and white, behind thin clouds. Then, the screaming began. It came from upstream. Long, shrill, wet, like a deer in a bear trap. But deeper, guttural, painful. Everyone froze. Lena whispered, "That's not a coyote." Danny tried to joke, "Maybe it's Bigfoot with IBS." But Jason's face had gone pale. No, that was a person. Mark chambered around in the 6.5 Creedmoor. They listened. Silence. Then, from downriver this time, another scream. Closer. Lena backed toward the fire. It's circling. Jason grabbed the flashlight, but the batteries flickered. The beam danced and died. Something rustled in the brush behind the tents. Mark raised the rifle. "Show yourself." But nothing moved until the river screamed again and something laughed behind the trees. The next morning, Jason found footprints. Not boot prints, not paws. Bare, human-shaped, but longer, thinner, with extra joints. Each toe ended in a small hooked claw, pressed deep into the sand near the edge of the river. The others gathered around silently. "They came up to the tents," Jason muttered, pointing, "then walked into the river." "No way," Mark said. "That water's freezing. No person could—" "They're not people," Lena cut in. "Not anymore." Danny laughed nervously, then stopped. He pointed upstream. "Guys, where's my rod?" It was gone. So was his pack. So was the meat they left hanging in the trees. In their place, stuck into the earth like a grave marker, was a fish hook, bent into the shape of a smile. They should have left. Jason said it. Lena begged it. But Mark didn't want to hike out blind, and Danny didn't want to believe in monsters. So they stayed. That night, the river flowed faster, louder. Mark went to the bank to fill his canteen. That's when they heard it, a splash, then a choked-off yell. They found Mark seconds later, crawling back from the bank, throat torn open, one eye missing, scooped out like a melon ball. His voice gargled with blood. "I saw it," he wheezed. "It smiled, under the water." He died before they could stop the bleeding. Something floated to the surface. Mark's scalp, still dripping. Jason stayed up all night, fire blazing, rifle across his lap. Danny paced. Lena carved something into a tree, her hands trembling. Jason whispered, "It's using the river like a road. It drags itself along the bottom, comes up when it wants. It watches us." Danny laughed, not because he thought it was funny, but because the truth had finally broken him. "Mark's dead," he said. "We're next." A soft ripple in the water caught Jason's eye. He turned the flashlight toward it. For a second, just a second, he saw it. Gray skin, long limbs, a wide, thin mouth full of backward-facing teeth. Then, it vanished. Danny disappeared at dawn. They found a trail of blood and skin, long strips of it, as if peeled off deliberately. His fingers were in a pile next to the fire pit, still twitching. Lena screamed. Jason followed the blood to the riverbank. His flashlight picked out drag marks, long and winding. He looked down into the current and saw eyes. Not glowing, not monstrous. Human-looking, curious, patient. The thing waited. Then it waved. A storm hit hard that afternoon. Rain hammered the camp. The river swelled fast, overtaking the sandbar, licking at their tents. Jason packed only essentials: the rifle, a flare, a knife. Lena refused to leave Mark and Danny. "We bury them." "There's no time," Jason shouted. Lightning struck close. The sky boomed. The river rose again, and the thing came out of it. It stood over 7 feet tall, skin like drowned leather, eyes wide, long, webbed fingers dripping red. Its face was wrong, too flat. Its teeth, like a shark's, layered back and back. Lena swung the axe. The thing caught her arm mid-swing and ripped, bones snapping like twigs. She screamed, falling. It bent low and bit into her stomach, pulling her open like wet fabric. Jason fired the rifle. Once, twice, 3 times. It barely flinched. It turned to him and screamed. A sound like every nightmare trying to escape a throat not made for sound. Jason dropped the rifle. His nose bled. His ears rang. Then it was gone, into the flood. Jason dragged Lena's body into the trees. She was still alive, barely, whispering. "It's old," she said. "It hates light. It hunts memories." Jason set the last of the flares around the rocks. When it came, he'd light the river up. He heard it, slithering through the trees, not walking, crawling. The current bent as it moved. When it lunged, Jason hit the flare. Boom! The river lit like hell's own mouth. The thing screamed, not in rage, but in fear. Its skin caught fire. It flailed, shrieked, dove. Then it vanished beneath the flaming current. They found Jason 2 days later, alone, half deaf, starving, holding a charred bone like a rosary. Lena was gone. So was everything else. He never spoke about it again. But the locals say the fish don't come back to Deadwood Creek. No birds nest in its trees. And sometimes, when the rain comes hard, the river floods red. If you camp there, don't go to the water after dark. And if you hear someone screaming, don't answer. Because it's not screaming. It's calling. Six months after the Deadwood Creek incident, a ranger named Kara Delaney reviewed a disturbing trail report. P. Camp abandoned. Blood found near river. Tents shredded. No signs of wildlife. Smell of rot in the air. River level abnormally high, despite no rain. It wasn't the first time. Rangers had whispered about the screamer for decades. Most dismissed it as bear attacks or hypothermia madness. But Kara knew something was wrong. P. Because 3 bodies had turned up since spring. P. And each one was missing their face. Kara hiked alone up the trail to Deadwood Creek. She wasn't green, 10 years with forestry and fire, but something about the quiet here felt unnatural. No wind, no insects, and the trees leaned, not from weather, but as if something had brushed past them too often. Hard, wet. P. She found the campsite. Ashes in the fire ring, blood-stained canvas, stuck in a tree like a banner, and drag marks, leading into the river. In Fresno, Jason lived alone. He didn't talk about the river. Not to police, not to reporters, not to Kara when she knocked on his door with questions. But at night, he didn't sleep. He heard water rushing, always too close. He saw a face in the sink drain. One night, he woke up soaked. River water on his floor. In the corner of the room was a wet footprint. Toes, webbing, a hooked claw. He left the city the next day and followed the current back up the mountains. Kara found bones near the waterline. Fresh, not chewed, not gnawed. Split, lengthwise, as if cracked open to suck out marrow. Nearby, her radio picked up static, and something else. A whispering, almost feminine, under the noise. Below, we wait. Come back. She turned off the radio. But the voice didn't stop. It was coming from the river. Jason returned to the site at dusk. He didn't expect Kara. He didn't expect the screams to start so soon. They rose from beneath the current. Not one this time, but many. Jason stared at the water. It churned violently, and shapes rose beneath the foam. More of them. Dozens. Lena's voice echoed across the bend. Jason! He turned. She stood in the river, water up to her waist, her skin pale and bloated, her jaw unhinged, and her eyes not her own. They made me part of the river. Then she charged. Kara opened fire, her sidearm loud but useless. Lena's body didn't bleed. It absorbed the bullets. One of the creatures lunged from the riverbank and tore her radio arm off at the elbow. Kara screamed. Jason ran to her, dragging her into the woods. Behind them, the creatures hissed, a symphony of moist, hungry rage. They fled uphill, bleeding, breath ragged, chased by the sound of water crashing where water shouldn't be. The next town to vanish was Pine Needle Junction. 6 cabins. 24 people. Gone. Police found only bones, wet footprints, and a drained reservoir. The river had moved, and now it brought its hunger downstream. Jason wrote one word in his journal before disappearing again. It's migrating. In the city of Visalia, a fisherman named Eli Carter pulled a trout from the canal. Its belly was bloated. Its mouth was filled with tiny human teeth. He dropped it. Behind him, something climbed out of the storm drain. Wet, tall, smiling.